Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by SurvivingBreastCancer.org. I am Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of SurvivingBreastCancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. I am so glad you are here. We are continuing our podcast series on the topic of grief. We are joined by Margie Grieve, who is a marriage and family therapist, certified thanatologist, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and hypnotherapist. Margie has been in the practice for a number of years, and her words are true wisdom, and I am so excited we are able to partner with her to bring this amazing educational content to you. In case you ever want to catch the live stream of our webinars and broadcast, you can always hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events. We will be holding specific topics related to the metastatic breast cancer community every other Sunday. So all the details are over on our website, survivingbreastcancer.org/events. Now let's get started. Welcome to the conversation.
So I know there were some questions about gender and how a certain gender might pose particular questions. So I wanted to address that. And in order to address that, I wanted to include my understanding of gender as it pertains to grief styles. So sex, we know that's the biological traits that associate male and female. Gender is the cultural meaning attached to being either masculine or feminine, which influence our personal identities. And sexuality, of course, is our sexual attraction, practices, and identity, which may or may not align with sex. And Doka and Martin have a book called Grieving Beyond Gender, Understanding Ways Men and Women Mourn. And he notes an intuitive style of grieving is experienced mainly as feelings and emotions. I feel sad. I feel angry. I feel confused. The grief response is usually focused on exploring these emotions. For example, I cried all night. I got so mad, I couldn't think. So we do an exploration, a process of, if it's so intense, there's got to be more information that needs to be processed within us.
What is intuitive grief?
So they say intuitive grief is experienced as waves of emotion. Its expression mirrors inner feelings and emotions. It's more feeling than thinking, and it's focused on exploring and expressing our feelings and processing our emotions. And it's referred to as more feminine, a more feminine way of grieving. Instrumental grieving styles. Although people may experience the same types of emotions, they may not like getting up close and personal with their feelings. So Doka and Martin associate this as an instrumental style. It's experienced in more physical and cognitive ways. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. And the grief response is in a physical, cognitive, or behavioral way, and looks like more like doing or action. So an example of that would be updating the family on a condition of a seriously ill loved one, or making preparations for family to come and visit. So it's more action-oriented versus let's sit and talk about our feelings and process them. Although instrumental grievers may not see a direct communication between their feelings and their response if asked, what did you do in response to your loss? As to saying, what did you feel? They might say, I spoke about the person a lot. I spoke at their memorial. I immediately found ways to further my loved one's legacy. I got involved in a charity or activism in my loved one's honor. So the instrumental grieving style may be challenging to discern. And that's why I really don't want to go into setting up people for, well, if this person, are they going to be asking these kinds of questions? Because I want to be with each unique person. And a person who's has an instrumental grieving style, they may not communicate verbally. They may do it in their behaviors, their actions, their desire to help. Some may worry that this person isn't dealing with their emotions when in reality, they're dealing with them differently. So that's something for all of us to keep in mind.
Yes, absolutely. We all are unique and we have our own way of internalizing, grieving, and acting on those emotions.
So, what does this have to do with gender? In no way we're saying men grieve instrumentally and women grieve intuitively. There is, say, most of us fall somewhere along the continuum between the two. And they call this the blended style.
Margie, this was so helpful. I really appreciate you breaking down the roles of gender, identity, and how people grieve differently. This was really eye-opening, and I think is actually going to help me, with my partner to have deeper and better and more meaningful conversations, just understanding that we might be processing things a little differently. So thank you again. This was so helpful. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our podcast. If you would like to find out more about our organization and upcoming events and ways to connect, you can find out more by visiting our website at survivingbreastcancer.org. I would like to acknowledge that all of the information on our podcast is from personal experiences, and it is not a substitute for professional medical advice. You should always consult your medical care team. If you're looking for specific topics or would like to be a guest on our show, feel free to contact me directly at laura@survivingbreastcancer.org. And of course, we have a couple social media handles you can follow us at as well. For example, survivingbreastcancer.org, all one word, as well as our podcast specifically, Breast Cancer Conversations. Until next time, keep on thriving.